Okay, so as you will see in this afternoon's recording, the next tenet of yoga recovery is life is prana. And as I said before practice, some of you might not have heard, Durga considers there are four disturbed states of prana that can lead us to our addictive behaviors. So the first one that she talks about being wired. And when we're wired, and we've all had that sense of being wired, kind of manic, right? Your body, your mind, nothing wants to rest. We tend to reach for the mother's little helpers that help sedate us. So it might be our nightly glass of wine, it might be some weed, it might be a Valium. We all have our things that we go to when we're feeling really wired. I know I do. Tequila is sort of my thing when I'm feeling like I just cannot calm down. I do go for that. I do go for that glass of tequila to go. But the practice that we just did was designed to meet that wired mood. And I'm going to show a slide in a moment that has the elements of that wired practice. And one of the things we're going to ask you to do this afternoon after you watch, and if you look at your document, which I will also share, you can see there's going to be a time to watch the Life is Prana video. There's going to be a time to plan your own wired practice using the tools that I'm going to share with you now. And they're also in that Google Doc. And you can also share whatever tools you may have learned in a different training or a different aspect. This is, it's not just what I'm telling you to do, it's what you've learned in your practice and your training that you might want to help someone with to take them from this to this, right? The heart beating slower and slower in the chest. First, I see a question from Rex and Hannah. Thank you. Yes, I did start recording. I appreciate that. And do you have slides? I don't know. I'm going to show this slide and you'll let me know if this is not what we're talking about, but I'm going to show you this slide. If I can pull it up here. There we go. Huh. Do you all see? No, that's not what I wanted to share. That's not it. Let me try again. Share. That's it. Okay, can you see that? Yeah, okay. So the wired practice, elements of sedating practice, instead of choosing the mother's little helpers that we go to sedate us when we're feeling kind of manic, you will notice that one of the things that I did was I didn't start us seated, I didn't start us lying down, which is something that I might do in a different practice, but I had us start standing up because people who are feeling really wired, and you may have felt this yourself, that when you feel super wired, the last thing you want to do is lie down because you're like, when are we going to get moving? Let's go, let's go, let's go. And I didn't do a whole lot of talking at the beginning. I just had to stand up and get moving. We met the Rajasic mood with the stair step breath from Amy Weintraub's work, the inhale, 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 smooth exhale, inhale, 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 smooth exhale. And then we worked through that. And the whole time we were working from trying to get the sympathetic nervous system, which is very much in charge when we're in that Rajasic mood of wired, down into the rest and digest place, which is the parasympathetic nervous system. And we did that, or I attempted to do that, by increasing the length of the exhale and working towards that emptiness, the hold after the exhale, which activates our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest. If you notice after the beginning, we almost never took our arms over the head, which is enlivening and awakening. We always brought our arms out to the sides in all of the poses. Arms overhead, more awakening, arms down or shoulder height, more calming for the system. The heart has to pump higher in order to get the blood to our arms when they're all the way over our head. So I made sure that I didn't do that. We did a back bend at the beginning and actually one at the end, but the one at the end I was using more as a breath exercise. But we tended to go for forward bends and twists, which are more calming poses. Generally, they're not going to be calming for everybody, but the general statement is forward bends and twists tend to be more calming. We use the calming mantras. These were from Amy Weintraub's work. And I did put those in the document that you have, and you can see them here. Ooh, I'm sorry. Oh, ah, start over. Oh, ooh, ah, a, e for the throat, for the third eye, and hing for the crown of the head. So if you have done Amy Weintraub's training, you have those in your manual for that, but you'll also find them on this document in the Google Drive. We did calming mudras, right? We did lotus mudra and dove mudra. Wasn't that calming? I feel like that's really calming. And for some people, it might not be. So always be aware that we're working with people. This is not allopathic. This is not prescriptive. It's sort of a general statement of what might work for people that you might try. It might not work. And that doesn't mean that they're weird or anything. It just means that we need to inquire into something different. If they feel very anxious doing this, then that's an interesting thing to find out, right? So then we try something else and see, does that calm them down? The Shavasana could have been a little longer, but I ran out of time. Usually I like to do at least 7 minutes in Shavasana. I feel like no matter how wired we are, that we could feel more rest in our everyday life. So I like to do at least 7 minutes. And then I did used a calming pranayama while we were lying down. I took advantage of the fact that I wanted a little bit more shavasana, but I also wanted the pranayama by using the alternate hand, alternate sides of the heart, alternate nostril breathing, you might say. And then also from Amy Weintraub, that grounding to the feet, the I am right here. I am right here. So I'm going to stop sharing because you do have this document, and see if there are any questions. So question from Hannah. Hannah, can I bring you up? Actually, it's Rex and Hannah. I'm going to bring you guys up and you can ask the question. Would you mind starting your video, or do you just want to do voice?
Voice.
Okay. Oh, you did start your video. I can bring you up. Okay, there we go. Hello.
Hello.
Good to see you too.
See you.
Yay. So what was your question, Hannah? Was
For the Vinyasa Krama, are you suspending the breath at the halfway point, or do you keep the breath going?
good question. If I can. There we go. It's not letting me, there we go. Like, it's not letting me come back. We just want to look at Rex and Hannah. The question was, do you, in Vinyasa Krama, which to repeat is that breaking up of the breath. So it could be the inhale, 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 or as we did the half exhale on our forward folds. You could add longer holds in that. So you could do exhale, pause for 1 second, exhale, or exhale, pause for 2 seconds, exhale. I was just saying break it up. So it really started to become whatever, was comfortable for you. I didn't offer an instruction in that, but you could. You know, you could create a very challenging breathing practice with those holds if you wanted to. And we might, depending on the person you're working with, you know, I didn't in this one because I didn't want to create more stress to the system. But if you're working with someone who could really use that breath work, go ahead and do that. That could be interesting. Did that answer your question? You guys are muted.
Yes,
Yes,
thank you.
thank you.
Awesome. Okay.
See you.
Any other questions on the things that you might use or additions that you might use to meet the wired mood, or even what is the wired mood? Any other questions on what I did? Can I ask you? Okay, Dana.
Hi.
Dana? Hi.
So I haven't been trained on the vinyasa krama, the breathing, the step of the inhale, and I'm not sure I understand how that functions in the body. And maybe you don't want to go into a long
No, I
explanation.
will. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. Yeah, because I forget that we haven't all heard that before. So thank you.
Thanks.
So in general, and again, in general, the inhale increases the heart rate and the blood pressure. That's what happens when we inhale. It's related to the sympathetic nervous system. And for some people, it might be opposite. But in general, that's what they found, that the inhalation is an awakening, alerting, activating force. Mm-hmm. The exhale, in general, is a calming, cooling force, and the heart rate slows down and the blood pressure drops when we exhale. So in using those two things in our practice, we can either incite an alert, awake, engaged place, which is increasing the length of the inhale. We probably don't want to increase the hold after the inhale because that can be a little too much for the system. But increasing the exhale and the pause after the exhale tends to bring that parasympathetic nervous system online. So it calms us down. It also increases the CO2 in our systems, and we need a certain amount of CO2 in our systems in order for our bodies to take in the oxygen. So it's a very complicated gas balance that Richard Miller goes into in the pranayama piece of the training. But what he teaches is that in general, again, these generalities, that people who have a longer exhale than their inhale tend on a whole to be healthier than people who have a longer inhale than their exhale. And when we don't have enough CO2 in our system, which is often thought of to be not a long enough exhale, we can have sleep problems or atrial fib or skin problems or chronic pain problems. You know, it relates to a whole bunch of problems that we wouldn't think would be related to our breath. So with our clients, when we work with them, with our students, especially now that everyone is so, like, all of our attention is like vibrating at like uber levels, it's really nice to work with people to lengthen their exhale and encourage a hold after their exhale. It is a generally very calming practice. Lowers the heart rate, lowers the breathing rate, lowers the blood pressure, brings blood to the organs. It helps us digest our food, which we know, and we're going to learn, you know, that's one of the ways we get prana is through our food. So we want to be able to digest it. So that working with the breathing patterns actually has this really wide-ranging effect on all of our systems. Does that answer your question, Dana? I know it's a super quick answer.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you and see.
I think I understand that part of it.
The
longer,
stepping.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't really understand the two-part inhale that we did as we were raising our hands.
Got it.
And yeah,
I got it.
yeah.
Thank you. So it leads right into it. When you ask someone to break up their breath, it naturally lengthens the part of the breath that you're asking them to do. So we did the stepped inhale to begin with, because when we're meeting someone in a wired state, they tend to be really amped and they may not be able to immediately increase their exhale. They're already in that hyper state. So we start with the increasing the inhale and the exhale, and then once we meet them at that place where they are, then we can bring them down. But it's just a matter of meeting someone who's feeling really anxious, right? So that feels like that anxious state so we're meeting them there and then immediately transitioning it to a different state of lengthening the exhales. So the stepping the breath with the movement is a way of lengthening the breath. It's just kind of a tricky way in there. It's like chanting. It's just a different way of doing it. So the breaking the breath in half, the exhales in half, is the same thing as just taking a long chant. It does the same thing in the body, if that makes sense to you.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that
great.
answer your question?
Yeah, that makes perfect
Okay.
sense. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's just a tricky little thing we do. And then is Chandra Bedana the same as alternate nostril? It is. So Chandra is moon. So that breathing practice is inhaling through the left and exhaling through the right. And then staying left, right. You're not switching back and forth. You're just inhale through the left and exhale through the right, which is thought to be a very calming practice. Moon breathing. Whereas inhaling through the right and exhaling through the left is an awakening, alerting practice. That's the sun channel. So here we're working with Ida, and here we're working with Pingala. Any other questions on that? I know it's a lot to take in, but and we'll have other times to answer questions. And what I want you to do, that you're asking what that's the process questions are the next thing, I'd like you to create, when we come back after this afternoon, which is, let me share that screen with you. Oh, I think my earbuds just are dying. Let me transfer them off to go to my MacBook speakers. Can you still hear me? Awesome. Okay. Okay, so this is today. We are now about to go to lunch. After you have a lunch, or maybe before you have whatever it is, we're all at different time zones, we'd like you to watch the Life is Prana video, which will explain a little bit more about what I'm talking about. And then we have the slides for the PDF, which you already went through. So just watch this video. Then before we come back at 4:15, please plan a 25-minute class, just a few postures. Try out different practices. Maybe, if you're not used to the breaking the breath up and down using Vinyasa Krama, try it so that it becomes embedded in your teaching practice. If you're not used to using the chants, use the chants. If you're not used to using the mudras, use the mudras. And maybe just try out one or two tools. Don't throw them all in there. It's a very short practice, only about 25 minutes. When you come back, we're going to ask everyone to turn on their cameras so that we can break up into dyads. So you will be automatically if you've never done that before, you'll be funneled into a Zoom room with one other person, a fellow student.
And you'll spend the first, and you might want to set your timers, write this down. Spend the first 10 minutes. The person with the longest hair goes first. Share with your partner your own mother's little helpers when you want to feel like you need to be sedated, when you're feeling wired. What do you use personally to calm yourself down? Like I just shared with you, that glass of tequila tends to help me. And also practice helps me, but sometimes I take the shortcut, I have to admit, to the glass of tequila. So 10 minutes, longest person with the longest hair is going to go first. You're going to share your mother's little helpers with your partner. Then 10 minutes, your partner shares their mother's little helpers with you. So that takes us through the first 20 minutes. And then you'll each take 25 minutes. Person with the longest hair teaches their little 25-minute practice to their partner. And then their partner teaches back to them. And then do we come back together after that? Let me just see. You know what? Let's, sorry. I'll have this down by manana. Where'd you go? There it is. Yep, we're going to go till 5:30 for your dyad session. And then we will end the dyad. Is that right? So that's 50 minutes, 20 minutes. Yeah, and then we'll come back just for 5 minutes, just to check in with each other before the end of the day. And then we will end for the day. So again, at some point before 4:15 Pacific time, design your own wired practice, just 25-minute practice. And then share, we'll come back in, we'll get set up into our Zoom groups. And please do have your camera on when you come back. We'll do a conversation about 10 minutes each about your mother's little helpers, 10 minutes each, and 25 minutes teaching. One person teaches to the other, that person teaches back, and then we'll come back together for about 5 minutes. The Zoom rooms will end and bring you back into this shared space, and then we'll end for the day. So enjoy your lunch, enjoy your pre-recorded video and figuring out your practice. And I'll hang out in the Zoom room. Amy, you do have a PDF. It should be there. If you have it, you can go. Otherwise, I'm going to look and see if I can find it. See right here, it says PDF example. That's what I just showed you of the wired practice. So it just has a few of the elements that you could use, plus any of the elements I used today. All right, so unless you have a question, go ahead and enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you back here at 4:15 California time. Irina, when the person with the longest hair presents his or her asana practice, the other person is doing it. Yeah, the other person is practicing it. 25-minute practice, yes. And yes, the pre-recorded yoga nidra will be completed on your own time. You can do it when it's scheduled, or you can do it before bed, or you can do it whenever you like. Okay, Ashley, if you can't practice, which I understand, you could just observe your partner teaching, or you could decide to skip today and not be put in a Zoom room. Up to you. All right, everyone. Seems like there's no more questions. So I'm going to close the Zoom room for now. Enjoy your afternoon, and we'll see you in a few hours, all ready to share and teach and be together again. Love you all. Enjoy your prana, that is lunch, or dinner, depending on where you are.